All right, looks like that's everybody. All right, could I have you please all unmute yourselves just for a short discussion while we review this? How'd you feel about that quiz? Feel like it reflected the reading pretty accurately?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yeah.
let's take a look, see how we felt. Most of you got that first question, which of the following is true about gravitational constant? All of them are correct. Very good. It does bring newtons in. That is one of the most important things. So I can see why people went with that. But it also shows that gravity is a very weak force and that it's an extremely small number, right? 10 to the negative 11. Good. All of you got that your vestibular sense is your ability to detect acceleration and your body orientation. We're going to explore that and review it a little bit today. Next was normal weight. So when you're in an elevator going upwards, you are going to feel higher amount of weight, right? You feel heavier. When you're going downwards, a lower amount of weight. So nice little trick. If you're trying to show that you've lost weight, you should just bring the bathroom scale into an elevator and start going down. And then you should appear to be a little bit lighter. All right, we're a little torn though about this one. So inhabitants of the International Space Station, the reason that they're floating around is that they have no support force, which I know is sort of a weird term, but that is something the book talked about. How weight is how heavy we feel, and the reason we feel heavy is because we're pressing on the floor, right? We're pressing on the chair that you're sitting on. And when you are experiencing weightlessness in space, like the International Space Station, they're not pressing on the seat that they sit on. They're not, we talked about how when they go to bed, they're not pressing their head into the pillow, and it's because that's what's called support force. Last question is, why hasn't the Leaning Tower of Pisa toppled over? It is again, we're kind of torn here. Center of gravity extends behind its base, so even if that was the case, that if the center of gravity was behind its base counteracting the lean, it doesn't really work that way. It would fall over the other way then, right? The point is that it isn't leaning so far over enough that that its center of gravity is over its base, right? So it is still stable, even though if anyone's ever been there, has anyone seen the Leaning Tower of Pisa? A lot of the pictures you see, they don't show this, but they actually have counteracting weights now that they've attached. There are these big ugly things that they hook on the other side to make sure that it really doesn't fall over completely, because the ground is just really soft. But it's become so famous now for leaning that they don't want to fix it. They just leave it how it is. So, all right, any questions on that? Okay. I wanted to take just a moment to review the homework. You had to do reading check questions 8, 10, 12, and 14. From page 116 here. Were there any that you found confusing, that you left blank, you weren't sure about?
Oh shoot! I thought there were the questions in the book, like during the reading.
Oh, no. No, it's here on page 116. You have to go to the very back of chapter 5. Yeah, and they're just kind of basic questions. They're not exactly, I at first thought they were the same as the questions that are in the chapter, but they aren't. But they relate, they relate very closely to what's in the chapter. So yeah, so sorry, you might have to redo that. All right, we feeling good? 12 and 14 didn't throw you off at all? You guys figured that out? The whole mg thing was what was weird to me. Did anyone figure out what the mg actually stands for? It's not milligrams.
Like mass and gravity?
Yeah, it's your mass due to acceleration of gravity. That's what it refers to as. So it's kind of a weird term. I don't know why they suddenly use it again, because they barely defined it in chapter 2, which is what they say in the text. But yeah, that's what it relates to.
Which question was that?
It was the last two questions, 12 and 14, that when is your weight equal to mg and when is your weight 0? What they mean by mg is, again, just when your weight is equal to mg, it's when you're standing still. Okay. You're not accelerating or anything. And then when your weight is 0 is when you're in free fall. That's sort of what
These are questions 5, 10, 12, and 14.
No, this was next assignment, 5.5 through 5.6. It's questions, that's the even ones, 8, 10, 12, and 14. Mm-hmm. Should be the most recent assignment. Great. Okay. So what I wanted to do now was just review the chapter a little bit with you guys. I'll use slides here, and so feel free to just take notes or jump in. I'll try to get through this quickly so that we can move on to other activities, because I know there's other stuff we want to do. But I want to make sure we're feeling good about where we are. So, all right, let's give this a try. Okay, so I just want to quickly review chapter 5.5, the universal gravitation constant, which we spent time on yesterday, and hopefully you watched those videos for homework if you tried the extra credit. And then specifically 5.6, all about weight and center of gravity. And this is sort of a nice little demonstration here of what we call the support force, right? That's that idea of what's counteracting. It's weird to think of it, but every force, there's two sides to it. And so that's a good diagram for that. I don't use that later on. So, all right. So this is the same slide I had earlier, but the whole point is that it's a very, very small number. A lot of you got that from the quiz. Anyone remember what this is based on? Like, what is this, the actual gravitational force between? Like, this is the amount of gravitational force felt between what two things?
Like two 1 kilogram masses, 1
Yep,
meter apart.
two 1 kilogram ones, right? So if you had a mass with 1 kilogram, kind of like just like in our animation, and another one with 1 kilogram, then that's what that would look like. I'm not going to take the time to draw that again. And that goofy variable there is because of this equation, right? Directly proportional mass and inversely proportional to distance. So vestibular sense, a lot of you got, again, is your sense of body position. So even with your eyes closed, you can tell if you're upside down or lying down. And you have what are called vestibular organs. I am not expecting you to memorize the names of all these things. Like, I know the reading goes into the whole like otolith organs and stuff like that. Don't worry about that stuff. There's just, I think the important structure is just understanding that that's what gives us our sense of balance and direction right there. And I have heard that if you get like really bad ear infections, so ear infection is usually swelling in this region here, and if it gets really bad, if the swelling is really, really big, then it can actually press on these and you can actually feel nauseous. And I'm not entirely sure how vertigo plays into this. People who have vertigo also kind of tend to feel unbalanced. I don't know if it relates to this organ or if it's something more neurological that's going on. I'd be curious about that. So, all right, got a little animation to play for you here as well. This is a cool thing that inside of, and this is again a little more detailed than I think I'll expect you to remember, but the whole point is why we can feel acceleration is you have this like calcium deposit inside your ear that moves slower than your head movement, right? So every time you jerk your head around, it takes a millisecond for this calcium deposits to also make the same motion. And so those little tiny hairs there all collected together can sense if you're accelerating forward or back or anything like that. So pretty amazing. And anyway, I haven't thought from an evolutionary standpoint why we have this other than just being able to correct our body position. I guess maybe it's a result again of us being climbers or something like that, and being able to sense that we're falling. Anyway, I'm curious about where that came from. So here's just a short little animation video of me talking about ear structures.
Hi kiddos, just want to show off this model that I have of a human ear. If we take off this front portion first, you can see the ear canal, which is what sound travels down and vibrates the eardrum right here. If you ever clean your ears using a Q-tip, this is what you're cleaning out. Wax can collect in here sometimes. This is a very sensitive structure though, so it's another reason why if you're using a Q-tip, you shouldn't go too far into your ear canal, where you could potentially damage some of these structures in here. Behind your eardrum are some of the smallest bones in your body. And again, that's because they are vibrating in response to the sound as it travels through the air into your ear. It's interesting to see that all of this is encased in bone to keep it secure. But what we really want to focus on is this structure here. These are called the semicircular canals. They're all part of what's called your vestibular organ, which is what gives you your vestibular sense, or your sense of body orientation and the sense of movement, right? You can tell that you're accelerating or decelerating, even if you're inside of an airplane and you can't see the motion itself. And I think this is a cool model because it really sort of shows you that each of these loops, you'll see you have one that's sort of like your, left to right orientation. You've got sort of an up and down and then forward back. So you can see it sort of takes like X, Y, and Z into account, all 3 dimensions. And so there's fluids in here that move and hairs that respond to the movement of those fluids as they move around due to gravity. Inside here, just to get a little more detailed, is where your otolith organs are, and that's more related to acceleration. But again, don't worry about trying to memorize all the anatomical parts of the ear. I think it's more just understanding that that is what gives you your sense of balance.
Did that play well for you guys? You able to hear the audio?
Yeah.
So this kind of stuff to me, to be honest, is where, you know, I kind of almost sympathize with those people who talk about the human body being designed, right? Because isn't that crazy that you have 3 loops that are perfectly oriented for that exact thing, up, down, back, you know, left and right, forward, back. It just seems like such a crazy thing for us to have evolved. But again, I think of us and our ancestors being climbers in particular, and having to be able to orient our body correctly and climb trees. That's probably where that came from as a result of it. And I don't know what it looks like in other organisms. I'm sure everything has something similar, or why it ended up in our ears, but still pretty amazing to sort of think about how that all works. So, all right. Next part was just looking at weight and weightlessness. So again, weight, they kind of give it that weird definition of being the force due to gravity on a body. And that's that mg term. It's mass times the acceleration due to gravity. And again, it just, when you're not moving, that's your weight, right? And gravity acting on you. But when you're accelerating upwards, you're going to feel a little bit heavier. And when you're accelerating downwards, you're going to be a little bit lighter, because again, you're adding those G forces onto it. And when you're in free fall, you're going to experience 0 weight. And so think back to that video we watched with OK Go dancing around. Even though they said, oh, we're in 0 gravity, that's not true. What they really were experiencing was 0 weight, because they were in free fall with the airplane. So that was the weightlessness they were feeling. They weren't actually getting rid of gravity in that. That's kind of they were misusing that term. And the chapter ends by talking about center of gravity, the exact point at which an object's average center of weight is. And the point is that this can shift around for objects that are moving, especially for your body and being able to balance, right? And so that's what provides stability. The whole point, especially with us being upright walkers in particular, only walking around on 2 legs, that we constantly have to position our center of gravity over our 2 feet. And this is why, again, like if you're ever on an unstable surface, you spread your legs, because by spreading our feet out, we are increasing the base, essentially, right? Like we have a more stable and wider base below us, so that we can then shift our mass around more easily. And you can experience this. And this is something we'll explore with a couple activities too. I think that was the last slide I wanted to go through there. So, so those are always available to check out. All right, so let's do a little activity now relating to balance. Again, I'll show you a little demonstration. I'll let you go to work on it for probably the next 15 or 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, and then we'll come back to talk about course registration stuff, which I know is on your mind. So let me pull up this little demonstration video, and then we'll chat about it.
Hi, Science 2 kiddos.
By the way, that's my cat Lionel in the background there. Sorry.
Activities we're going to do today. First, I'd like you to try is this little balancing act from the book, if you feel up to it and are able. First, you're just going to bend over and touch your toes. Don't even have to lock your knees, and you should be able to stay balanced by shifting your center of gravity. But then I want you to get flat against the wall and see if you can do the same thing without falling over. And you should find that it's a little more challenging. Just to demonstrate for you now. Just like normal, that's nice and easy, but when I get flat up against the wall here and try to do the same thing, you'll see that your center of gravity is shifted, so it's much harder.
I have no idea why I did that little swimmer motion. Watching myself is so funny.
Okay, second activity, we're going to do a little bit of a balancing act. What you're going to need for this is something sturdy like a mug, or you can use a small drinking glass or plastic. I think a glass, you want something that's heavy and stable. So I would probably avoid plastic. A mug or a drinking glass would be good. You'll need 2 identical forks. It's important that they are exactly the same because these are what we need to balance. So if you don't have metal forks available, maybe see if you can track down some plastic ones. And you'll need something like a toothpick. And if you don't have toothpicks, you can maybe use matches. You could maybe find like a shish kebab stick, which are a little bit longer. You can break those apart. And so here's what you're going to do. The first thing you need to do is you need to lock together the 2 forks. And this is going to be kind of challenging, so you need to get your thumbs involved. But what you want to do is intertwine them like so. And again, use your thumbs to really make sure that they kind of lock in with each other. And you should end up with something like that you can then balance and find the center of weight. I'll do the same thing with the metal ones. This is a little trickier. I have forks that only have 3 tines. But if we get, usually if I use my thumbs, I'm able to get them to lock in. So there we go. We'll see if that holds. And then you want to hold it so that you've found its center of gravity, right? You can see that it's balanced now. And here's the challenge. What I want to do now is balance it on the mug with a toothpick. And so you want to sort of turn it sideways and insert the wooden toothpick right in the middle. And you might have to jam it in a little bit if the tines are close together. And then you want to rest the whole structure on the edge of the mug so that it balances. And really the first trick is just getting the forks to sort of stay in place and then find that center of mass so that the whole thing sits very close. There you go. So that's what you're going for right there. You can see that the forks are sort of magically suspended by the single toothpick, and that's because, again, the center of gravity is right where you're looking at the edge of the mug where the toothpick is. And the reason for that, why it looks so crazy, is because most of the weight is actually in the handles of the forks on either side. You might have seen some toys. They often make them in the form of a bird with its wings spread, and you can balance it on the edge of a table on its beak. It works in a very similar fashion. So it's a bit of a challenge, but see if you can film yourself doing that. It might take multiple takes. You might need to practice a few times to get it right, but then see if you can document yourself doing that and post it to Flipgrid. Thanks.
Pretty cool, huh? Have any of you ever seen those toys? It's usually like a bird, like an eagle, and it has like really widespread wings, and you can like bounce out on the edge of the table or something. So it's very similar to that. I will let you go for the next 15 minutes, let's say. So let's come back into the classroom here at 12:55. Again, you do not have to have the video done by then. If you want to just take these 15 minutes to try to find the materials you need, again, you are going to need 2 identical forks. Believe it or not, it was very hard for me to do that in my kitchen. I don't know why we have so many different forks, but and yeah, again, toothpicks, matches, you can get creative. Even if you need to do something like, if you can't find something wooden, maybe try to use a needle. If you've got like a sewing needle or something like that, or I mean, I think maybe even like you could probably even use like a paper clip or something if you got really desperate. So, but let me know if you have trouble tracking down resources or can't get it to work. Practice a little bit before you try to film yourself. But again, you're going to film yourself doing that weird balancing thing from the book, and then this little fork balancing thing. So again, so we'll meet again here at 12:55. I'll be here listening if you need help with anything. So, here is just to show you on Flipgrid. Here's the assignment called Center of Gravity Activity. I have a description too, very short right here. If you're not sure what to do, you don't want to watch the video again. So, all right, go for it. See you again at 12:55. All right, everybody, it's just after 12:55. Let's come back together. So were most of you able to get the materials you needed? Everyone got 2 forks? What were you using for balancing? Would most of you have toothpicks or?
I had a match.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
couldn't
Matt?
find a toothpick or a match. I tried using a needle and it didn't work.
Yeah, I tried using a needle too, and it didn't work.
Okay. Yeah, I think the advantage is it's if you can find something that is kind of flat so that it kind of forces the forks to balance on it, like I would recommend maybe if you can find a paper clip, maybe one of the bigger ones, that might work to be able to really wedge it in. Then it keeps the forks flat. So having a flatter surface could work. Did anyone manage to get it to work, even for like a second? Yeah, yeah. It takes patience, right? To keep trying. If you really can't get it to work at all, then it's okay. You can just post a video to say, "Here's my try," and that's that. Like I'm not going to require you to get it to work if you can't. But it's a nice little exploration of finding the center of gravity. It's pretty miraculous. Again, the first time I tried it too, where I was like, "There's no way when I let go of this, it's going to stay here," but it did. I think I kind of got lucky though too. So you kind of have to find that perfect point. So, all right. So if you don't have video posted, that's just one thing you got to try for homework. But again, if you really can't get it to work, I don't want you to spend like an hour trying to get this to work. It's not worth it. So if after like 4 or 5 attempts, just film that and you're good. You're not going to lose points for not getting it to work. Point is just to be a little fun. So, all right. So enough about content. Does anyone know what is due next Tuesday that you all should have gotten in your emails?
Like class stuff, right?
Yes. So of course we are in course registration now, courses for next year. So I want to take a moment to talk to you about what your options are for science, because again, you guys are kind of the pioneer group, right? You are the first generation to go through this whole PSI Science 2 thing. And so once again, now you are headed into another sort of little experiment that we're trying next year. That a lot of other schools have started doing. And so I want to take a moment to talk about that. So again, I've prepared a little presentation that I'll just go through quickly. And then feel free though at any moment to jump in. If you've got a question, tell me to slow down, whatever you want. But then I'll take time to kind of check in with you guys. We'll do this throughout the whole week. I'll be meeting with each of you. So, all right. Again, the first time I've gone through this too, but let's take a look. So, I am the one who's going to actually sign you up for your classes. So I am going to have to check in individually with each of you, either by email or face-to-face. Face-to-face is definitely going to be preferred. And what I'm going to do is go on to Slate, and which is like this online programming thing we use. You guys have used it in advisory. And this is what I'll see. So these are your options for your junior year. And so I want to walk you through each of these and talk about what I will encourage you to consider and what I would discourage you from considering. And then talk about what's best for you. So first of all, you have a ton of resources available, right? And I know there's a lot of links and info that's been sent to you. Please check out the curriculum guide. I know it's intimidating. It's this like crazy looking digital book. It looks like this, and you kind of flip back and forth in it. Science section starts on page 44. There's actually a very handsome gentleman in the upper left corner right there. I don't know why they decided to use that picture. But then this breaks down all the descriptions, the prerequisites, everything's here. The prerequisites, though, are actually technically in a separate document, I guess. I don't know why they did it that way. But I put a link for that here in the slides as well. And it's also in the like assignments list on the campus announcement. There's a little 4-year planning worksheet. You can fill that out for all your classes. And then there's more information on your Pirate page. I really encourage you, and I know you guys you're not new to this, so but I encourage you to talk to older students who have taken these courses before, juniors and seniors. Though again, you're looking at some brand new courses that no one has taken before, so you'll be the first group. And by all means, faculty members as well who teach these classes and can tell you a little bit about what they're hoping that they'll be like. All right, so the graduation requirement in science for Stevenson is taking PSI, Principles of Scientific Inquiry, in 1 year of Science 2. You have all achieved that goal. Now all you need to do is take 1 further year of a lab science. And so that's it. Now, this doesn't mean though, and I strongly discourage you from thinking, okay, well then I can skip science my junior year and I can just take a science in my senior year and I'll be done. Don't put this off, because you don't want to be locked into a science course as a senior that you have to pass in order to graduate. Things can get pretty tense, and that's just not a fun experience. So I encourage you all to sign up for science for your junior year so that you meet the graduation requirement. Any questions so far on the graduation requirement or the resources available?
What does it mean by a year of lab science? What does a lab science mean?
It means that it has a lab component, so that we have those periods where we're doing investigations. It basically just means that, ironically, it's not online. because a lot of kids think, oh, well, then I can take, back when we were doing biology and chemistry, I had a lot of students said, okay, I want to take chemistry over the summer online, and then I can jump into like AP Bio. But the problem was that we require that, and this is because of the UC system. So the University of California, UC schools require lab sciences, meaning you have a lab component to the course. So yeah, that's what that means. And you'll see there's a couple courses they offer that aren't labs. So you'll see that in a second too. That's a good question. Anything else? Okay, so let me walk you through this. Most of you are going to sign up for that first box right there, what are called the science semester courses. It's a pairing, right? So you'll take a course, one course in the fall semester and one course in the spring semester. This is sort of the new model that we're moving towards. And this is what I'm hoping most of you will do. I'm not entirely sure how the details will work with this. Right now, you'll just sign up. You can just check this box and that's it. I assume later you'll be given a list of what specific courses will be offered, and then you can kind of list your preferences. Like, here's my first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice. And I guess there's going to be no guarantee that we can get you into your first choice necessarily. I think they'll try their best, but you have a pretty good amount of options. And again, it's 2 different courses. You'll take one in the fall, one in the spring. And these courses are mostly designed to prepare you for AP courses. So if you really wanted to take an AP as a senior, let's say you want to take AP Bio as a senior, then there are biology-related semester courses you can take that will prepare you well for then making the best of AP Bio as a senior. Though if you don't want to take AP courses, that's fine too. You can just sign up as a senior. You can take these science semester courses as a senior too, just for fun, or not at all because you will have met your graduation requirement by that point. In terms of the prerequisite, they are open to all of you, right? They're open to all grade 11, grade 12 students, no prerequisites, nothing. So you can get into these courses. Here's a little detailed description too, where they just say that the tentative list is here, but we haven't confirmed exactly which courses are going to be offered yet. And it sort of depends on what kids sign up for, right? That's what we're going to offer, is what gets the most signups. So this is a list that's directly from the guide book, the curriculum guide. But this is what we're hoping to offer these as semester courses. So I'll go through and talk about each of these according to their themes, right? There's a biology theme, an environmental science theme, a chemistry theme, and a physics theme. So looking at the biology courses, again, these are ones I strongly encourage. I believe Dr. Griffiths is teaching these. He's going to do brains and behavior. So it's going to be kind of like a neuroscience, maybe even a psychology sort of thing. And he's going to do a course on evolutionary biology. So you'll learn all about Darwin, Lamarck, and Darwinian thinking, natural selection, all that kind of stuff. And again, I'm not sure which one will be offered in the fall, which one in the spring. You'll get more details about that later. I will be offering 2 courses. One is called Genetics and Disease, so looking at how genetics works, and then genetic disorders and resistance to different diseases. And I'll be doing a human anatomy and physiology course, and there'll be a lot of dissections in that course. And again, I haven't seen any decisions yet. I'm probably going to offer Genetics and Disease in the fall and human anatomy in the spring. And these aren't like linked, like you don't have to take genetics to understand human anatomy. They're separate, independent courses. Mr. Zerny is going to offer marine science as usual, though if I remember correctly, Mr. Provo actually might be teaching that. I know Mr. Zerny is going to offer ornithology, and Mr. Yamashita is going to offer sports medicine. He's always done that. You know, you'll get involved with like taping football players before games and like learning how to deal with different injuries. It's a pretty cool course. So that's everything biology related. Any questions about those? Those are your biology theme options. All right, looking at chemistry, again, these are electives you can sign up for. Dr. Wenzel is going to offer biochemistry of diet, so looking at food stuff, food science and nutrition, and introduction to pharmacology. These are all courses he's taught before. They used to only be open to seniors. Now they are open to you guys as juniors and to seniors. So I encourage you to talk to some seniors who are currently in these courses, who have taken these courses, and can tell you about them. Dr. Wenzel, it's pretty intense, but it's pretty interesting stuff. You'll learn a lot. Trust me, you'll like change your diet after eating those. In environmental science, I assume Mr. McCormick is going to be teaching these, designing a better way. So this is sort of looking at, I think, sustainability and like going green. Earth in crisis. This is probably going to be a kind of depressing course, but looking at, you know, what's going on with the Earth right now, mass extinctions, that kind of thing. And then our changing climate is probably going to be a continuation of a lot of what we've done in science too, looking at climate change, carbon dioxide levels and things like that, glaciers melting. And then there's physics. Mr. Provo is going to be offering field astrology. He does an awesome course all about, looking at the stars, and he's got telescopes and all kinds of stuff you can work with there. And then Mr. Henriksen has basically taken the normal physics course that would have been offered at Stevenson and is just offering it as sort of a two-part elective. So if you really want to dive into physics, you should take these two courses. I think he's going to offer mechanics and kinematics in the fall, and then forces and energy in the spring. So if you're like really into physics, these are the two you would probably sign up for. And that is it for currently the electives that we're offering. And so again, currently, if you're interested in any of those, we're just going to check that box. And I assume later you'll get some kind of information where you can then prioritize these, like, here's my first choice for the fall, here's my first choice for the spring, and here's my second choice, and so on. Any questions about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. So if you were to, I'm not sure if you know the answer, but if you were to do a biology focused one for the first semester and then chemistry for the second,
Mhm.
for senior year, would you still be able to go into an 8B course?
Yes,
Or-
I think that is the idea, is that, like you don't have to take two biologies just to go into AP Bio. Like you could take a bio in the fall and a chem in the spring, and then senior year, if you wanted to, you could just go into AP Bio or just go into AP Chem, or if you're really crazy about science, you could try to dual and do both. I know some students have done that. So yeah, I think that, there's going to be a little groundwork you'd have to do, but I think that's going to be true for everybody. So yes, you can mix things up.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Good question. Any other questions? All right, this is really exciting. And again, this is what I'm hoping I'll be signing most of you up for. So going down the list now, app development, you'll notice is a course that if you're a junior, you're gonna have to double up your sciences. You'll have to take it in conjunction, because one of the prerequisites is that you have taken 3 years of lab science or simultaneously are enrolled during your third year. So you would have to take physics and app development at the same time as a junior. You could save this till senior year, right? So you could take app development as a senior, no problem. You wouldn't have to double up on anything. And so I think this is taught by Mr. Mayer. It's a lot of like coding stuff. It's pretty interesting. He's offered this for a couple of years, so you can find students who have taken this course, and you should talk to them about that. And there's a note there about grade 11 students. Pre-engineering is very similar. Again, the requirement is that you've taken 3 years of lab science. So if you want to do pre-engineering as a junior, you're going to have to double up. You'll take physics and pre-engineering is probably what they would recommend. Those two courses would go well together. I think Mr. Akan offers this, and he has a couple of years. This is that, if anyone remembers, like them playing guitars during assembly, you'll like make a guitar, you'll like make a chair out of cardboard. There's a lot of kind of fun things they do, but it's a lot of math as well. Pretty advanced stuff. And again, robotics is also the same. This is offered by Mr. D'Angelo. It's a lot of coding stuff. I think he focuses on a lot of aquatic bots now. So you'll be using robots that kind of swim in the pool. You might have seen some students doing this in the past. Mr. D'Angelo is an awesome teacher. He's a retired programmer. He like made his millions in the tech industry and then retired, and now he's just teaching in his spare time. And so pretty cool course. But again, notice that all of these are not lab sciences. So that's the thing, is that you couldn't just take these as a junior and meet your graduation requirement. That's why you would have to double up to take these. Or again, you could wait until senior year, then you could take any of these, no problem, just by themselves, because you will have already taken 3 years of a lab science. Okay, any questions on those three? App development, pre-engineering, robotics. Okay, this next group I'm going to discourage for you guys. And I know it's weird for me to say that, but I think these courses are pretty advanced. These are courses that are going to have more seniors in them, and students coming out of Science2 honors more. So there's physics honors. I think this is offered by Dr. Koenig. This is an algebra-based physics course. It goes much deeper than what Mr. Henriksen is going to offer for his elective semester course, right? This is kind of like the next level up. This actually used to be AP Physics B, I think, and then they did away with that AP exam, and so they just converted it into an honors physics course. Again, to qualify, you have to have an A- in Science2 average, and you're going to need to get permission from the science department, probably from me. I would talk to Dr. Koenig about it, and we probably look at how you're doing in your math courses. And then the rest are the AP courses. Again, I know a lot of you are like really excited. Some kids like just want to dive right into AP Bio. again, I'm going to discourage you from doing that. I think you're going to have a much better time and take more out of AP Bio if you waited and took it as a senior and used your junior year to take some more very biology themed semester courses, right? That's going to kind of prepare you well for then enjoying this class, because otherwise it'll kind of run you over. But again, I think there are some of you who are qualified enough. I think you've done your science work and you've done well enough that you could do well in AP Bio if you really wanted to do it. But we'll have to have conversations with Mr. Zerny and figure all that out. So same thing, same story for AP Chemistry, same story for AP Environmental Science, same for AP Physics C. This is by Mr. Akan. Mr. McCormick teaches AP Environmental Science. AP Chemistry is Dr. Wenzel. And you cannot talk to his students. AP Chem is pretty intense. I would say out of all the APs, AP Environmental Science is sort of the least intense of them, but it's still pretty like very project-based, very math-based, and is very diverse. You're going to learn about all kinds of stuff from, chemical pollution all the way up to, like urban planning and dam removal and stuff. So anyway, I would not really consider these, honestly. I would focus more on these upper courses here. But we can have conversations about that. There's also a research project. This is sort of science fair stuff, and it relates to the Naval Postgraduate School. I think Dr. Wenzel is in charge of this. But again, this is something that if you wanted to take it, you would have to double up, because this doesn't count as a lab science. It doesn't count towards your graduation requirement. So if you wanted to do this as a junior, you would be doing this in addition to a science course. And same thing with Intro to Computer Science. I think either Mr. May or Mrs. Wenzel teaches this. And I think it's a cool course. You're going to learn all about computing and coding and artificial intelligence. But again, it doesn't meet a graduation requirement. You would need to double up your sciences to take that. So I know that was a lot I just threw at you. So I tried to kind of make a little summary slide here. Again, what I'm strongly encouraging all of you to consider is the science semester courses. Those are, where we're going to be directing most of the students coming out of Science 2 and Science 2 honors. I do encourage you to consider these other ones too, app development, pre-engineering, and robotics, if you're up for doubling up for science. But know that you would have to double up to take those as a junior. But if you waited till senior year, then you can take those, no problem. I discourage you from the APs just because they're pretty intense. I think maybe a few of you could survive some of these courses if you wanted to. That's something I can chat with you about. And I do encourage these last two, but again, you'd have to double up. So in terms of what's happening next, I encourage you to look over all the resources that are provided to you, read the course descriptions, talk to older students, talk to teachers about the courses, figure out what you think is best for you, and then meet with me to check in about what you want to do. So I know, again, that was a lot I just threw at you. Any questions on any of that?
When do we meet with you?
I'm going to try to do it throughout the week. In fact,
Can I meet with you after this?
Yeah, we're a little bit over time, but I was hoping to, I could do kind of individual meetings with you guys here where you can just linger in the room and I'll just make breakout rooms for you each individually, and then I'll just pop in and we can have conversations about what you want to take. So, and that's honestly all I want to do with the remainder of class. We only have 5 minutes left, but we can do that right now for anyone who wants to sort of linger or hang around. So just before we officially end class, homework is listed right down here. Please go ahead and post your Flipgrid video. But again, please don't spend more than like 30 minutes tops trying it. If it's not working, just film your attempt and that's it. You don't have to have it perfect. Please don't waste time trying to get that done. The main thing is to consider what you want to sign up for your classes. I do want to continue in chapter 5. So please also read Hewitt chapter 5.8 through 5.9. It's just the next 2 sections. And there's no quiz next time we meet, but I would like you to again do reading check questions on page 116, questions 15, 17, and 19 in your digital notebook. So that's it for me, honestly. So I will linger around here now to chat with anyone who wants to hang out, and I'll just try to get to you as quickly as I can about course registration stuff. So if you're feeling good, we have this entire week to meet, so I'm happy to set up individual meeting times. You want to send me an email as well to think about, you want to read a little bit first and then talk with me later, that's fine. But if you want to hang around now, I can answer a few questions. So, but this is the official